Many people have asked me, what is neuroplasticity? If you've seen a blind person, conventional neuroscience believed that the visual cortex was dormant. They believed that our brain was hardwired. And scientists who said that our brains were plastic, that in a blind person, the visual cortex was used by the sense of touch and the sense of hearing, they were ostracized because that would mean that our brains are not hardwired. Today, there is technology like fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, which can actually pinpoint where the action is happening in the brain. So it has been observed now and empirically proved that in a blind person, the sense of hearing and the sense of touch are keener because they are being used in the visual cortex. Now, what does our brains being plastic mean? It means that our brain adapts to the situations it is put in. And therefore, if we have creativity, then our brains can grow in the way the environment gives them opportunity to grow. So let's look at this further. The human mother is on two legs. Therefore, her pelvis is narrower and the birth canal is narrower. All the other animals are on four legs. So their pelvis is wider and the birth canal is wider. Therefore, the baby can be born with a reasonably developed brain, which in a human being is not possible. So let me give you an example of a baby giraffe. If you know, a giraffe is a tall animal. And the baby giraffe is born, it falls from that height. The mother does not bend down to the ground. The baby giraffe falls from that height. It survives the fall. And as soon as it falls, the mother kicks it so that the baby giraffe can stand on its feet and have its first feed of milk. The baby giraffe does not bend down and sit on the ground so that the mother giraffe does not sit down and bend on the ground so that the baby giraffe can have its milk. The baby giraffe has to stand, reach the udders of the mother and have its first feed. And as soon as it has had its first feed, the mother giraffe asks it to run so that it can be saved from predators. That is the level of development of a baby giraffe's brain. Now look at a human baby. The human baby is born with all the nerve cells it will ever need for its lifetime, which is 200 billion. A human baby is born with 200 billion nerve cells, but very few of those are populated. The skull of a human baby is cartilage, it is not bone, so that it can fit through the birth canal and bend itself the way it wants. And as soon as the baby is born, first thing it knows is how to drink milk from the mother and how to shit and pee. It only knows input and output. Even its vision is not that good. By the time the child is 10 in today's world, from the 200 billion, only 100 billion nerve cells remain. How have they found that out? So if an infant dies, they try and measure the nerve cells in the dead infant. So they know that at birth, there's about 200 billion nerve cells. If a child at the age of 10 dies, then they try and measure the number of nerve cells in the child that is dead. And they know that by the time the child is 10, only 100 billion remain, which means we lose 50% of our nerve cells because of lack of stimuli. And then as people who have died have grown older, they have continued to measure and they find that it's more or less staying at 100 billion or something close to that. Which means that our development years are the first 10 years. That is why at ABLE, we are trying to focus on the kids right from the get-go. That is why ABLE is more focused on children rather than on adults. Because we want these children to retain as many of their nerve cells as possible by giving them the opportunity to provide stimuli to as many of these senses and motor organs and anything else that can be obtained. For example, positioning, like GPS positioning, coming back home. If we leave a dog a dog will come back home. It knows how to find its position. It has a built-in GPS. Same way, there are tribals in Africa. If you blindfold them and leave them in the middle of a place, they can't find their way home. They have the homing mechanism. They have a GPS. All of us are born with a GPS. But we have lost that ability because we have not exercised it. So by letting the children explore their curiosity, I'm hoping that we will help these children get stimuli and preserve more of their nerve cells. There is a therapy known as Constraint Induced Therapy, CIT. This is used mainly for heart attack patients or patients who have lost control for some of the parts of their body. Usually in heart attack patients, one side of their body gets paralyzed. It could be left or it could be right. And in these cases, what is done? So let's say there's a heart attack patient whose left side is paralyzed. Then in that case, the right side, which is the good side of the patient, is constrained. It is just held this way. And the patient is encouraged to move something with the left side, the paralyzed side. And for the first day, the patient tries about 10 seconds, next day 20 seconds, next day 30 seconds, just try and grab a coin or move a coin and so on. So start with major motor skills, macro motor skills, and then start with micro motor skills. Okay? And slowly they have found that these people regenerate their ability to move the paralyzed side. Now, how does that work? This is the same as the principle of a traffic jam. So in these cases, the nerve cells that were dead don't regenerate. So if there is a traffic jam on the main highway, then how do we proceed? Then typically we'll take these side lanes, which are not that often used, and find our way to wherever we want to go. So in these people too, their brains find other paths, new paths, and get connected to the part that was paralyzed, and it starts getting used again. Correct? So same way, our brains are plastic. They can be molded. And at Able, we want to give these children opportunities to explore their capabilities in such a way that most of their nerve cells are preserved and they develop skills that we had not dreamt of. And therefore, that would be a generation that is far better in doing things than us. For example, Jane Goodall wanted to learn more about gorillas. So she went into the forest and stayed with the gorillas and learned and became one of them. And as a result, we know more about gorillas than we did a long time ago. We have been able to help the gorillas survive longer in the wild. We have had programs that have stopped poaching of gorillas. Same way, if a child wants to follow a butterfly, let it follow. If a child wants to observe ants for the whole day, let it do it. By doing so, we will learn more about ants and other things in nature that we didn't have an idea about before. And we will learn from it. That is neuroplasticity. Exposing our minds to things that we didn't expose them to before. And therefore retaining capabilities because of the stimuli that we give them. And therefore having a much richer nerve cell retention. By doing so, we'll be creating a new generation that is much smarter than us, that has more stimuli than us, that is more harmonious with nature than us, and therefore more harmonious with other people, and helping nature preserve its true potential. We'll create a world that is going to reverse climate change and also going to help it stay and grow more positive and maintain a path where we will be more successful as not just human beings, but as denizens of this planet, where we begin to respect plants, animals, and all species just as we do ourselves. And we stop destroying other species and we just try to live with them as they respect us, we respect them. That is why neuroplasticity is important and one of the key research projects for Able. It's not a research project, it's just a discovery. It's there. It's just for us to discover, apply, and thrive in it.